Well, hello everybody. I'm coming to you from my Lego room. You can probably see I've got a big basement room here, probably very similar to a lot of basement rooms for a lot of the attendees here. What I'm going to be talking about today, as you can see, is I've got a fairly large village, and I take it to various events, conventions, fairs, things like that. And consistently, the most consistent question I get is, how do you get it here? How do you move it from one place to the other? And again, you can see it's relatively large. And so how you move something like this really has to start in the design process of how you put things together. And of course, like any Lego project, it's an evolution and starts small and grows from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So what you see here is a picture of my village. And it is basically, I call it an island village because it's made up of three main sections that are connected by bridges. And I left this photo up here because you can see underneath my pirate ship here. Normally I would have this covered with a cloth, but that's also a stack of all the bins that I use to help move this village. This is a view of what I call my main island. And you can see my village is, about 50-50, half and half, the Lego limited edition series and my own creations and so forth. Most prominent there is the cathedral, which is my own creation. And then it's surrounded by a lot of the Lego pieces, which you all will recognize. It's also elevated. You'll see that I've got a subway system because every Lego village needs to have a train. I think I'm convinced of that. And so it's elevated up off of that. And then so many towns that I've seen, which are just on a flat surface, don't really show all that well. So I decided I wanted to have some hills, some texture to vertical texture, which kind of shows off the village a little bit better. And so I'll show you how I've accomplished that. This is actually the most recent addition, which is the third island. And the baseball stadium there is actually just finished, just last week finished. And I even added a mountain back there. So this is the most recent island. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a short video. This is the train running. It kind of gives you a little bit better idea of how the islands are connected and how the train will run across the bridges, through my transit center, over into the main island, into the subway system. Then it actually goes behind and comes back through. So it runs in one continuous loop, which the kids love that. They love to run around the entire village just chasing the train. So this is the setup. This is at a convention center in Augusta, Georgia. That's my hometown of Augusta, Georgia. And this is the setup here. And I'm going to show you a couple pictures so you get an idea of it and the scale of everything. And of course, my tall ship right there is prominent. And of course, over the stacks of bins, so everything is self-storing when I take it to these conventions. I don't need to have additional storage space for any of the things I use to move it. Now, this, of course, is the main island. And because it's an island, it's meant to be viewed from all sides. And so it's set up at the conventions so it could be viewed from all around. And this is the back side of my transit center, which is right here. The train runs through the bottom section, and I've got an airport there. And then, of course, both bridges tie into this transit center, and you can see it from the back side. This is what my Lego room looks like right after I'm ready to have everything packed up. And it took me a while to find just the right bins here. And I found some that not only stack well, but also are sized such that two standard Lego buildings, which are typically built on a 32 stud square base plate or 10-inch square base plate, two can fit side by side in each one of these bins. And then I've got space on the sides for additional pieces, pieces of the hillside, some of the city walls, some of my original builds, which might be smaller, maybe even a little larger than a standard base plate size. So currently I can pack the entire village into 28 bins. Now you'll look at this right here, and one of the things that is the most important part of this whole packing system, once you get everything packed together in a bin, I take a photo of it and I print that photo out and I keep it in that bin. It's not so important when you're packing things up, but it's vitally important when you want to try and take it down from a convention or the fair or something like that, and you've got a time limit in order to do so. So it's good to know, okay, this building goes in this bin with this other these other pieces in there. So that's a good way, and I've had other people come over and say, wow, what a great idea. And it's kind of, I don't know how I would do it without that. What you'll see over here are some of my base plates, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. This is a convention. I think this is actually a convention center in Raleigh. And you'll see I have independent folding tables. There are actually 5 of them. You're only seeing 3 here. And the center island where the transit center was, it would be this one here. This would be the main island where the cathedral was. And there are 2 here. And then, of course, you have to make sure that you get them spaced just right, because you've got the train that's going to run in the continuous loop across all of these tables. This is, I threw this picture in here basically to show just how many bins they are and the space that you have. This is a 10-foot by 20-foot space that the convention gave me, and I think I do a pretty good job at filling it. This gives you a better idea of what the hillsides look like before we actually put the Legos on there. And it also gives you an idea of the base plates, or the platforms that I build everything on. And of course, you need something light but strong in order to hold this whole village. And I chose bifold hollow core doors. They're very light. They fold up by their nature. And nicely, a standard door measures 6'8" tall, which is 80 inches. 80 inches divides nicely into the 10-inch square base plate. So I can fit 10 buildings or 10 segments of buildings on that base plate or on that platform. And doors don't come in 50-inch widths. They do come in a 30-inch width. I actually chose a bifold door that was 4 feet wide or 48 inches, and then used a couple little spacers to bring it out to the 50. So my 2 main islands here and here are each 80 inches by 50 inches. And so I can fit standard base plates on those. And again, if you're going to be moving things, you need to consider that. The platforms that you see here, these are bits of hollow core door as well, so that they're light, and they're also relatively strong. And each one, they come apart in different sections. These are the big ones. The cathedral is going to be sitting right here. You'll see some empty spaces here because my train is actually going to run around here and in and through some of these things. Over here is where my mountain sits. I got some tunnels that the train run through. Well, how do you move it? This is my little Ford Escape. And it's kind of like you've got 28 bins and 5 folding tables and 3 hollow core platform doors to transport. It's like, how do you do it? Well, I'm pretty well packed in there. And of course, I have the bed extender as well. And it fits, you know, every year. I wonder if it's going to, but it does. And here, this is actually backstage of the Raleigh convention. Any of y'all who ever worked any of the conventions are probably familiar with these loading areas and so forth. So I've got plenty of room to be able to unload, but this also gives you an idea of how I can pack the bins and the folding tables and just carry them there with me. Here I am on my way to the convention. This was actually one of my earlier ones where I only had, well, I had fewer bins. And you can see these are the platform, or not the platforms, but these are the Hillsides wooden pieces down here. And I looked at this picture and I said, look at that. I've got all that wasted space up here. What can I do with that? You know, well, of course, these Lego villages continue to grow, and so I needed more space. And so I experimented. The thing that took up the most space that I could do something about were those hillside pieces. So I've been experimenting with different ways of creating those and getting them to lie more flat. And so this is the most recent convention I did in Raleigh. And you'll see that I have a bunch of flat pieces right here, just 1/4-inch plywood that I cut slots into. And basically, one slides into the other and forms those platforms that you see and the hillsides onto which all of the Lego is built. Now I'm still kind of experimenting with that, but it seems to work pretty well. One of the other exhibitors came over and looked at that. And he called it a tab A slot B system. So I kind of like that. One of the other things that you'll notice, of course, my my tables here, my folding tables, and some of the platforms here. I've also been experimenting with making those hollow core doors maybe fold even a little bit more. To make it a little easier to transport. Interestingly, you'll see my tall ship, my pirate ship right here. It is, I used to move it all in one piece, okay? And I had one of those events happen to me that I think I like to hope that nobody else has to, but I'm sure everybody has. As I was moving this, I dropped the ship, and I don't glue anything together. A lot of people at the conventions presume that things are glued together. I change my mind and like to change things around and remodify and rebuild things all the time. I'm not going to be gluing these things together. So this ship shattered. When I rebuilt it, decided to go ahead and build it with that portability in mind, which means that it separates right there in the center that you can see. The masts come off, as well as all of the sails. Actually, I added the billowing sails after that accident happened. So it's rebuilt. Now the entire thing can fit into one bin. Since these things are not glued, they do break in transit, okay? That's one of the important things about having them in the bins here. if it does break in transit, you have all of the pieces together. You know what pieces go with what build, and you know where those pieces are. Okay. Before I had the bin system, I just had Lego pieces set in the back of my car, you know, just up against the wheel well or whatever. And I believe that I probably still have Lego pieces in and about my car somewhere, you know, with various cracks and crevices there. So, because I know that there are pieces that I've never been able to find. So keep them all together, and it gives you at least a fighting chance of getting something put back together if you transport it. So that's the last picture I have.
Mark, that brings me to one of these great questions that was asked
Yes.
here. One says, thanks for sharing. This sounds incredibly stressful. What makes all the effort worthwhile to you?
Oh, wonderful question. It's primarily the comments that I get at the conventions. And I particularly like the questions from the kids. I like interacting with the kids. Some of them will come up and say, how long have you been working on this? And I'll say, well, I started this village 7 years ago. And I'll ask them, I said, what were you doing 7 years ago? And they said, well, I wasn't born. You know, I am only 7, or I'm only 6, you know, I mean, and so forth. So the kids have great questions. And they ask very fascinating questions. I also get a lot of good questions from the adults. The kids, they pick out the details. They will find the smallest details. In my baseball stadium, when I populated it with people in the stands, I took every remaining minifigure I had and put them in the stands. And I finally had a kid come up to me and say, why do you have Harry Potter watching the baseball game? I had no idea Harry Potter was there. I went and looked. Indeed, Harry Potter was there, you know, but the kids found it. They also asked me, where's the ball? The baseball. Like, well, okay, I'm gonna have to find a way to make a ball fly through the air, you know. So maybe for next year.
Awesome. There's speaking of great questions from kids, there's a couple here having to do with your ship. One says, how do you build a ship? And the other one says, what part do you start building a ship with?
I started with the Lego ship base. And so I made sure that I got a good base there. And if you're not familiar, they're a piece that comes together, I don't know about how big, yay big, that you put a series of them together, and then you can define the length of your ship that way. The ship, like all of my original builds, I use the computer model first. And that way you can build and rebuild in the model until you get something that really works for you. It took me about 2 months to build physically the base of the ship, probably another 2 months again down the line to build the sails. I've been working on the design and the computer 6 or 7 months before I was even ready to build the physical one.
With the sails, how did you start designing the shape?
The sails, there are so many ships out there, Lego ships, that use canvas or paper sails. I committed that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have brick built sails. And so the sails are actually made, let me see if I can just grab one. Here's one of my sails. They're just a series of plates put together, two wide plates, most of them, that kind of gives it that billowing approach. And so it's got both sides here. And then also I use some angle pieces along the bottom in order to kind of give it that, some of the shipbuilders will have the right terms, you know, but the way they're held down and so forth. As far as designing them, I pulled up a lot of pictures of ships and under full sail in order to design them. And so that's what took the time, really.
Mm-hmm.
Just the research.
The research for sure. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Sticking with the ship here, got another couple of great questions after this, but when do you decide enough detail is enough on a model, or is there simply never a detail that is too small? When you run out of time?
That's part of it. I finished the sales just in time for a convention I was going to. And so, quite frank, there's a financial component to this as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Give or take, a Lego brick is maybe 10 cents a piece. And so if you've got 5,000 bricks in a build, you know, that, I'm an engineer, was $500. Okay. So you have to be a little conscious of that. A lot of your detail is determined by what bricks you can buy and cannot buy. Because if you're designing it in the computer, you can choose any of the palette of bricks in any color you want. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is actually available to you. So a lot of the detail is determined by what bricks you can actually physically buy.
Yeah, for sure. Nothing like making a perfect mock with the perfect color, come to find out that either it's not available or very rare.
Yeah. Oh, I'll give you a perfect example. I'll take you over to my baseball stadium, which is right here. I wanted to have the field with that really cool striped look, you know, that the professional mowers use. And as you can see, I finally accomplished it, but I had to go through probably 10 or 12 different scenarios in order to get that happen, because I wanted green and bright green tile pieces. They weren't available.
Yeah.
And so, well, in the numbers and sizes that I needed. So I ended up with green and sand green and 1x2 tile pieces, and then I just had to make it work in that pattern, just because, frankly, that was what I could get available.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So another question here says, "What shop did you get the bins from?"
Home Depot. They're a hefty brand. Let's see. If I can do this without knocking anything over. Hefty brand.
Perfect. Nice.
They are let me see if I can get the actual size, 66 quart size. And I found them to be nearly perfect to fit those two side-by-side buildings into.
Oh, nice. With the base plate sizes and stuff, works really well.
Yeah. Now you do have to be careful about the height. If you've got a tall building, it may not fit into the bin. But nicely, with all of the buildings from Legos, they tend to separate at the floors or at the roof. So you can take the floor off, maybe invert it, maybe put it to the side. Like I say, you've got the space on the side to do things like that. And then when I design my own mocks, I have to design that basically with that in mind. For instance, you'll see my cathedral back here. the steeples are way too tall to fit in the box, you know. So let me see if I can do this.
There you go. Nice.
Like that. And I use the same trick that that Lego uses in their builds. There's a series of plates on top with maybe four exposed studs, so you can put it on there and it'll hold pretty well, but yet you can still pull it off in a section there
Without too much damage involved.
hopefully.
Yeah. All right, so do you like Lego Minecraft series?
I've never experimented with Minecraft. So I've had a couple of kids when I ask them what their favorite sets are, their Lego sets. A lot of them point out the Minecraft as being one of their favorites, but I've never actually experimented with it myself.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Sometimes there's those themes here and there that we just don't quite get to. Let's see. Why is there an ice cream truck trapped on the ridge? And what computer modeling do you use?
Okay, ice cream truck on the.
You might have shown something where the ice cream truck is not on a road or something in your layout. Now you got to find the ice cream truck. Could it be an ice cream truck?
I was gonna say I'm not
a camper.
What they're referring, you know. So I do have on top of the mountain over there. That is a ski truck, and then so got some skiers up there on top of the mountain, and
might be it.
The kids say, you know, well, you know, or I asked them, do you think they're going to be safe if they ski down that hill? Oh no, on the water, you know. So, and then
the other question was, what kind of computer modeling do you use? What program do you use?
I typically use gosh, I'm just spazzing the name now.
A couple that I know of. There's L-Draw, and then there's Studio from BrickLink.
Yeah.
Or
I've tried the Studio and the L-Draw from BrickLink, and I typically use oh, good gosh.
Names of some of the modeling. L-Draw, Studio, Lego Digital Designer.
Lego Digital Designer. Yeah.
Nice. And that one's free from Lego. If you go to lego.com, you can, I don't remember where the link is, but there is a link there for you to download that for any of you guys watching. There's lots of free, really great free Lego modeling programs out there. They're really.
There's
really
also some.
Go ahead.
It's also something that I recommend to parents in particular, particularly parents that come to these Lego conventions, who see all of this, and of course the kids don't care about the cost. They don't have the cost for that, and so forth. But parents do. And parents will ask me, well, how much does all of this cost? And I said, well, it's a labor of love. It's a hobby. Do you make money with this? No, it's a hobby. So I've got, probably $10,000 in here. At least that's what I told the insurance company.
Right.
For those who keep tracks of things like that, I actually have a rider on my insurance policy to cover this. But I can tell parents to go to lego.com and download the Lego Digital Designer. Their kids can design all they want to for free, and build everything that they want to. And then maybe that's one special Lego thing that they want to build. Then maybe they can spend the money to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's it's a lot of opportunity there that we might not be able to afford otherwise. Well, that is the end of our time. Really appreciate you showing off your great model, your great system for transportation, and a lot of your fantastic ideas.